the one that sticks out the most is Final Destination.
Yes.
There is no one in our generation that will willingly drive behind a log truck.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 59. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hedge.
And today we're going to learn how to count because we just don't know how to do it.
Just the blooper reels of all the times I mess up the countdown before we start an episode. We're back with another episode as we always promise. And as usual, we start with housekeeping. So you can listen to us everywhere. That hasn't changed. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all our info. Then follow us on any platform you prefer, whatever works best for you.
And you heard that right, podcastcore.com. That's it. We've made it. If this was early 2000s, we would literally be kings of the world.
We didn't have to do .org. It worked.
Hey!
We made it, Mom. So you can also send us an email if you have anything to say, anything at all, at podcastcore@gmail.com, and leave a like, follow, and short review / comment on wherever you use to listen. It helps us a lot, helps us get discovered, helps get the word out. But the other way to get a word out is to tell a friend to turn the darkness within into light by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
I love it. That's beautiful. That was beautiful. Not even cheesy.
Thank you.
Just pure beauty.
It's
I
the
love
truth.
it. I love it. Now, but why are we turning darkness into light?
Because
why
we're
is that?
finally talking about Senna specifically. And I say that because we've had so many episodes.
We were definitely like way too excited to just be like, yes, we can finally start talking about some of these stories.
Yeah.
And the event just lined up perfectly. So Senna had to wait.
Senna had to wait until the last moment. But we're here. We've had a long Sentinels of Light journey. You've been along for the ride. So if anybody ever quizzes you in the street randomly, you know, you have the answers.
And if you don't have the answers, just go ahead and listen to those episodes. I mean, technically Senna's a part of it, so we're not even going that far out of order if you want to listen to us first and then go listen to them. But check out those episodes. And then you can tell those people to buzz off. I know more than you.
So the topic today is Senna, Until Death Do Us Part. And as always, we start with the spell. So the spell we're going to go with today is Absorb Soul. It's a 1-cost fast spell that has Drain 4 from an ally. And this is a card that's starting to see more play recently with the set that's out. But the part that's most important here is the lantern in the imagery and the quote we have here. Because the lantern is obviously related to Thresh, which means it refers to Senna's situation here. As you know, Senna gets sucked into that lantern, and a lot of her character modifications or growth happens in that time frame while Lucian's chasing him down. But there's a quote here, and it's a simple quote that stands out that has deeper meaning to it when you listen to our other episodes, which you definitely want to do, which is, "What kills you only makes me stronger, Thresh."
God, how sinister is that?
Yeah,
it's like, hey, take a sentence and change one word to break it.
Yeah, he's a good bad guy. And the importance here is that it has a deeper meaning when you think about it in reference to Lucian, because Hedge is going to talk. We talk a lot about Lucian's growth and deconstruction as a person when Senna gets taken away from him. And when you think about this quote in relation to him, literally what kills him as a person and what destroys his loving, happy personality when he was with Senna is him taking Senna away. And him taking Senna away made him stronger because of the curse and things like that Senna had. Like that, she was a very special soul for him to steal. And Hedge will get more into that a little bit later.
And we technically have touched on it a little bit if
Yeah.
you've listened to the Sentinels of Light. So you look over to your friend who hasn't listened to that yet and be like, ha ha ha. Again, I know more than you.
Yeah, Senna's like a really rare Pokemon, right? She's important.
Wait, I'm trading my Senna cards.
So the next card we're going to talk about is our follower for this episode, and that's the Ixtali Sentinel. So with this newest set, we got a lot of Sentinels from different regions. With, once again, if you listen to our other episodes, you kind of can get a feel on how the old guard worked, how they recruited, how they kind of disappeared and got scattered, and how the new guard's being created to protect against the harrowings that are inevitably going to happen constantly. But the one we wanted to focus on here is the Extoli Sentinel. So the Extoli Sentinel is a card, is a 6-cost 4/5 with lifesteal. And also, when I'm summoned, create a darkness in hand. If you don't have one, when you play your next darkness this round, copy it, targeting the enemy nexus. So this has seen some play as like a one-of recently in the darkness deck with Vigar and Senna, because it helps you kind of finish off the game and also gain some life back so you can extend, since that deck is a control-based deck. So it sees some play.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it has lifesteal on it does make it so flexible because it can keep you alive if you're up against aggro. The fact that you're creating a darkness but technically casting it twice, it can help accelerate Vigar. It can help end the game if you've already got your Vigar online. It's flexibility is always good in a card game. And of course, since it is so flexible, have I been messing around with decks that have 3 copies of it and trying dumb things to work? Of course I have.
That's
but,
too many. That's too many.
But that's a me problem.
So the Extoli Sentinel, the quote here is interesting from her. It's, "You asked me, Senna, what brought me to this fight. I have lost nothing to the mist. It does not threaten my home. It exists and it should not. I am here to discover why. Do I need sentiment to join your cause?" And the reason that's kind of not profound, but it's important, is that up to this point, we've known that all the Sentinels are affected some way in life. Usually they're pulled in by older Sentinels before they're slain or something happens and they're trained by them. There are other moments where, it affects them directly, where like their village may be destroyed or they may have experienced a harrowing. But here you have somebody who's Ixtali, so from the Shuriman, who has, trust me, we've gone over Shurima. If you haven't listened to those episodes, they have their own problems, but not so much harrowing-based problems. So to see someone who's joining a cause like this, just because of different reasons, is interesting, right? Do you need to be do you need to have felt the pain of losing someone to be like, this sucks and I want to get to the bottom of it and truly understand it? No. So it's a great example of someone, because the rest of the Sentinels, Sentinel follower cards, we'll get to it another time. A lot of those characters that are presented in that imagery and those quotes have experienced something as well.
Yeah, and it is like the core idea that was built around, as far as when we're going through the Sentinels of Light and stuff, because we hit Akshan's story. We've already talked about Lucian's story, and they are definitely characters that were heavily influenced by, like, their lives were changed for the worse because of harrowings or because of the black mists. And it's nice to see that it's like, yeah, there's some people that just have like a professional curiosity. Yeah. Just like, what? I don't need that. I just want to know why.
Yeah.
And so here I am cutting down mist wraiths to figure out why.
I just have questions and I happen to have these daggers. Let's get to the bottom of this. But yeah, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's talk about Senna finally.
Okay, and it's a long time coming, my friend. So as far as with Senna's story, the first thing that we're going to track back to, very briefly, but we're going to track back all the way to the beginning, because Senna comes from, as far as in her story, it's an unnamed island that was often visited by the Black Mist. So that's enough to gather that she lived fairly close to the Shadow Isles, at least within the ocean that keeps it separated from the rest of the Valoran continent. And the fact that she lived so close to the Shadow Isles is that she grew up with basically an intimate knowledge of how terrifying the harrowing can be, and with the Black Mist always coming to that island and affecting its people. but it was a little bit different for Senna. And a part of that being different is because Senna was touched by the black mist as a young girl and then survived. That's not something that usually happens. All right. Most people who come into contact with it don't make it.
Yeah, and we've gotten visions, especially from Lucian's story, Homebound, where you see what happens to the body when the mist interacts with it, just black and charred as the soul's ripped from it. So to have her get close enough to the sun, but not fall because of it, and then it kind of change her life is a very, once again, unique thing, like we mentioned earlier.
So as far as with her being touched and surviving, she did not make it through without anything changing, because it turns out that, at least to everyone else's understanding, she had been cursed. So the black mist ends up coming to the island even more frequently, and it seems to be attracted to Senna. And this is kind of her daily, up to the point that she ends up being saved by a Sentinel of Light by the name of Urius. And if you've listened to our Lucian episode, you will recognize the name Urius, and that is Lucian's father. So Urius comes to this island tracking down the harrowing, saves Senna, and basically saves all of the people that survive the black mist before his coming. And he takes a professional curiosity to Senna, because he has intimate knowledge of the mists and harrowings, because he is a Sentinel of Light. He fights this as for a living, basically. So he understands that this child is different, and it seems that these mist wraiths are attracted to her, and I don't know why. So for the very least, until I can figure out why, if you're willing, Senna, you can come with me, and I will teach you how to survive.
Yeah, that's a good point. What we've noticed, especially if you've listened to our Akshan episode with him and his interaction with Shadia, even the older guard of Sentinels don't really have all the answers. They've jumped into action, they've given their life to this cause, etc., in different parts of Runeterra, but they don't have the answers for everything that happens. And there's still, some seeking of knowledge, which falls on the shoulder of this new guard that's being created. And I think that's cool. I think it's cool because the harrowings become, like we say, this natural disaster occurring thing that becomes expected, it becomes a way of life. And to have that uncertainty of, like, even the vets don't know what's happening keeps you on your toes, right? Something bigger is coming. Something is always around the corner.
And it does a great job of setting this, like, kind of a brotherhood, this kinship amongst the Sentinels of Light, where it's like, okay, we're doing this for the greater good of all of the people, regardless of whether or not we know what's going on. So it gives a nice, like, little foundation to kind of set
like
this
separated
order,
but together kind of thing. Because
which
there's only
is
a few of them, so they have to be away from each other, but they're all serving the same purpose.
Yeah, and to me, it's kind of entertaining that there is, like, enough of like a story building to the Sentinels of Light, specifically because it's like they're basically like all dead. It's like, let's build up these people that you're literally never gonna see, and if you want to see more Sentinels, you got to check out the Sentinels of Light. So Urius does take Senna under his wing. He trains her essentially to become a Sentinel of Light. And it's less that he was planning to make her a Sentinel of Light, and more that, kid, you got no choice. Like, it's either going to be die or learn how to fight this. So Senna learns how to fight this, and it turns out that Senna was a very accomplished student. She took to the teachings very naturally, took to it like a fish to water. And the only thing that ends up happening to Senna as far as with this training is that she realizes throughout their journey that anyone she becomes close to ends up dead to the mist. Like, even after, if they go to somewhere and they save the people, the moment they leave, the mist is going to be back there anyways. And Senna decides that it's like, it's better that if I never become close to anyone, because if I get too close to people, I'll just get them killed. And that is a sentiment that she ends up solidifying, spoiler, because Urias dies. So their journeys go on, and even before Urias can teach her everything, he ends up passing, because there's only so much fighting against an endless onslaught of evil that you can do before you're just done.
Yeah, your time has come. Your card is punched. The curse introduces a element that you see in a lot of early horror movies, which is usually good, where either the bad guy or the unspeakable horror latches on to a main character, and no matter where that character goes, Halloween, Scream, It Follows, it always will track them as they get older, and you never know when it's going to strike or what's going to happen, but you always have to be prepared for it, and it creates that tension, right? Which is great when you attach that piece to the harrowing.
To date, us, because we never do that enough, for our generation, the one that sticks out the most is Final Destination.
Yes.
There is no one in our generation that will willingly drive behind a log truck. Because today's the day, boys.
That's so true. It hurts.
So yeah, now the point of Senna's story where Urias passes away, this is going to be where what we've already talked about, because the very next thing that she does is she decides to meet Urias's son, who he rarely talked about but did mention, and she decides that he needs to know that his father has passed away. And this is where we get to Senna traveling to Demacia to meet Lucian.
Yep.
And we talked about this in the Lucian episode heavily, and going through the Sentinels of Light, we talk about it a lot, because this is how Lucian finds his exit from Demacia, a land that he never truly felt at home. And he decides to leave to try to find a home, as well as learn more about his father. And Senna decides to at least guide him to Urias's final resting place. And then, like, when she takes him there, it's like, hey, I'm now realizing you don't want to leave. You don't want to go back to your home. So if you're going to stay with me, you need to learn how to fight the mist. And that it becomes Lucian's training to become a Sentinel of Light. And it's within this time that Senna decides to become close to someone.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. And if you know from horror movies from the early 2000s,
yep,
there's only one thing that can happen now.
Young people in love? No, sir. Not on my watch.
Not on my evil watch.
But yeah, this is where we also get the mention of Lucian's initial personality, where he's an upbeat guy. He is kind of isolated from Demacia, as we've mentioned before, but he does love to joke around. He's fun-loving, and it's very counter to what we know, like from when he was released and the earlier stuff before we got the reveals, right? Was we got to see like a dark, brooding Lucian who was serious and he was hunting someone for a reason. And we're not there yet, so it's cool to see this initial establishment of character from the young man himself.
Yes, and this is also where we get to see Senna's, like, kind of, ahead of Lucian's story, we get to see Senna's heart start to open up. It becomes less hard, and she opens up to Lucian more because she is falling in love. And it is within this process of opening up to Lucian that, she's able to tell Lucian that, yeah, we're running into the mist a little bit more than other people.
Yeah.
So I might be cursed. And so after they are truly like hitting it off, and she reveals to Lucian that she has been cursed ever since a young age, they then decide to make their mission less of one to go chasing about the harrowing and more of one to go looking for answers. So they pick up where her and Urias had left off. And it is on these journeys that they run into a very strong and very conscious mist wraith by the name of Thresh. And it turns out that he was not just a mist wraith, he was the warden, the chain warden.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
the baddie, or one of the baddies.
Yeah.
And you know, if you haven't listened to other episodes yet, stop here. Go listen to those, because spoilers. All right, I'm gonna give y'all 5 seconds. Thresh is the main baddie. He's like, you ever seen like Puppet President type stuff where there's a guy pulling the chains in the background? He is that guy, pun intended.
For anybody that's like D&D fans, he's the BBEG. Like, you know, like this is that he the tippity top.
Viego has a hot bod, but
and that's what makes like the big spoilers for the Sentinels of Light. So I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. But that's what made like the Sentinels of Light like such a cool story. Is like Viego was introduced as the BBEG, and then we get to the story of the Sentinels of Light.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end of the Sentinels of Light, and it's a to be continued with the true BBEG. Yep. And as far as going back to Senna's story, when they run into Thresh, only one of them makes it out. So you got to dodge the Thresh Q. If you get hit by the Q, it's over. And Senna ends up saving Lucian's life, putting herself in the way of the sickle, and she gets hooked. And this is where Senna finally gets answers about her curse. Because what we do know from this point is that people that are killed by the mists, their souls are taken and they become a part of the mist. Senna gets taken, but she does not become a part of the mist. And it is only after Thresh captures her soul and traps her in the lantern that Senna is finally able to understand that what she was touched by was a soul captured by the mist, and that soul is now bound to hers. And what the mist is attracted to is the life that got away. That life being the soul that is now imprinted upon her. But because she now has this added life force, she can freely navigate the lantern of Threshes, and she can freely navigate the black mists of the Shadow Islands. So we're now, like, it's a lot to like take in just this one moment. Like, off to the side, I'm sure there's like this echo that is like kind of like, you know, in the like the screaming from the basement, where it's like you could hear it if you really pay attention, but you still can't make it out. It's probably like that for her, but you know, that screaming from the basement is Senna, and the Lucian card flips, and now he's rallying.
2 souls, 1 body, twice as strong. There's the math.
There's the math. Easy math. So like that's happening off in the real world, but now she's like navigating the lantern, and she's really coming to terms as far as like what it is that this curse truly was and what she can do about it, because she's not trapped here like everyone else. Sure, she can't get out freely, but she's not lost. And that's a lot to like take into these quick moments. And she decides, as far as from this point, is that she's going to understand more about the mist. Because now she's able to understand that what the black mist could not let go of was life.
She's going to do her own research.
So she's off. She's off. She's going onto the deep pages of Google. Getting that cross-referencing done, all within the lantern. And it is within this time that not only does she understand more about the mist and why the mist is attracted to her, but she's also understanding more about the ruination. What happened at the beginning? What caused the ruination? And that she realizes that, hey, I don't know what it is that's bound to me, but I do understand that the soul that's bound to me was a part of the ruination curse, and that the curse was built around love. And that is a very big important thing when we get into like the stories of the Sentinels of Light. All right, but while she's trying to understand how love is connected to the ruination, um, it turns out that there was more than just a few seconds have passed for Senna, because now Lucian is caught back up to Thresh. Many moons later,
Yeah.
he has broken through the lantern with the now dual wielding pistols, one of them being Senna's. And it's within that crack that Senna goes, "Oh, sweet, I can get out now." So now Senna gets out of the lantern, and the Senna that we know is now back in the world of Runeterra. And she is neither living or dead.
Zombisa.
Zombie.
So
it's Godzilla.
One thing to keep in mind, timeline-wise, is based on our other episodes, we've kind of come to the conclusion it's about a 5-year trek between Senna getting trapped and Lucian finally freeing her. That's a long time.
Yeah,
That's
and within 5 years of like free study where you don't need like bathroom breaks, you don't need food, you don't need sleep. 5 years of that, she still ain't got no answers. I think Senna's just lazy. I'll say it. But yeah, so Senna gets out. This is also where we see like Senna's like technically like new form, because we talk about it a lot in our Sentinels of Light episodes as far as that there are physical changes to Senna, especially like with the eyes and this presence that's around her. But she now also has this gigantic stone cannon, for lack of a better word, that she just holds, because that's what a human being does with a freaking howitzer. You just like kind of lug it around like a child. And now like Senna's out and Lucian's staring at Senna like and what we talked about in our previous episode with the Homebound, that's also at a point where Lucian was kind of expected to be dead at this point. So instead of being dead, he's got his dead wife back.
And
so
she's different.
And she's different. So definitely and it is at this point that their story changes, because now instead of running from the mist, instead of trying to figure out what this curse is or everything, it is like, hey, no, I've got an idea, and we need to get moving, because that idea is that I have been with these spirits, I've heard talk, there's a harrowing coming.
Yeah.
And we have to get ready.
Yeah.
And that is where Senna's champion story kind of tapers off.
Yep.
And it is the Sentinels of Light. If you want to go check out those episodes, that's where the harrowing is coming.
Exactly. And I think the way this ends up, so we're going to shift into the card here. The way it's represented in the card is really well done, as they usually do, right?
Yeah.
And quick note with the cards themselves, in the whole grand scheme of the Sentinel of Light event, this card was late. It was very late to the party of all the content that was coming out. And I think it was due to the reason of how they took this concept and built the card as it relates to like Vagar and some other cards as well. So
yeah, definitely late. And we could see that it's kind of late with the level up requirement. So Senna is a 5-mana 4/4. So no Dumpy Seal today. 5-mana 4/4 with quick attack, of course. And when I'm summoned or attack, create a darkness in hand if you do not have one. Your damage and kill spells accelerate to fast speed. Now that last bit of text is really important, because the darkness that's created, it's part of the Vagar package as well, is a darkness card is a 3-mana slow speed spell, deal 2 damage to an enemy. So already when you get Senna out, if you don't have a darkness, you get one for free, and that slow speed 2 damage spell is now a fast speed. And fast speed is better than slow speed. Those are just facts. Now, but I mean, as far as like the joking aside, like being able to accelerate a lot of the spells up, especially when you're looking at spells like Crumble or the Crumble or even Ruination, the ones that are kind of like this, you're playing a game of chicken with your opponent. It's a lot easier to play that game of chicken when you cheat, and this lets you cheat. But the level up requirement is what definitely makes this card feel like it was behind. The level up is I have seen you slay 3+ units with spells, or an allied Lucian has died. And now the circle is complete. Lucian had his Senna card, and if he sees Senna die, we get the Senna! And now Senna's here, and you know what? She's going to flip too if she sees Lucian die. But it definitely feels late because we're mentioning Vigar a lot. We haven't had a Vigar episode. That he came out with the Bandle City cards, and you want to be playing darkness cards with darkness cards.
Yeah.
And that's not in Demacia. So that bit feels a little bit clunky. So we're gonna focus more on the slaying bit.
Yeah.
And then we get to the flip card. So the flip side is a 5/5 with quick attack, and now you have, when you're summoned or attack, create a darkness, your damage and kill spells accelerate to fast speed and cost 1 less. All of a sudden, that already, like, just at face value, the darknesses that you're creating are now 2 mana fast speed spells. Like, you're basically creating a Mystic Shot that can only target the board instead of the face, but you're making Mystic Shots for free. That's pretty good. Like, that's not
huge,
that's a lot of value. And where a lot of people criticize the darkness package is more that it's a value machine without necessarily killing your opponent. But back in my Hearthstone days, my favorite content creator was Trump. And he called himself the mayor of Value Town. So I'm always going to play around with cards that just have infinite value.
Oh, you gotta love the value. But along with the value here, we get quotes, right? And those quotes kind of lead into the ending of them kind of having that realization of, okay, there's something here that we weren't paying attention to, and there's more that we can do. It can be beaten. The harrowings don't have to continue to happen. We can target it, we can hurt it, and we can solve the problem, which is cool.
Yeah, and that quote there is, we were wrong. The Black Mist isn't heartless. It's not random. It has a goal, but that means we can track it. It means it can bleed. And if that ain't some, like, just badass
Dun, 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 dun.
like,
Dun, 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 dun.
we're talking about, like, this inanimate, like, basically hurricane.
Yeah.
The supernatural hurricane moving around, and Senna, who has been trapped in it for 5 years, comes out with glowing eyes, and she just looks at you and goes, "It can bleed." And it's like, okay, what happened? No, back up.
Michael Bay presents.
Michael Bay presents.
We're gonna shoot that hurricane. Listen, so all jokes aside, kind of wrap it up here. We're at that part of the episode where either we do questions or challenge, but we're just gonna talk more about the content since we're wrapping up our Sentinels of Light series here of episodes. And it's a lot deeper the way they handled this event, because it's been a long time coming. Like, Lucian's damn near OG character, Thresh as well. Their characters are still played to this day, and there's still interest in that. So for them to finally do this story and to do it well across the board, give it the depth it needs, be able to expand on these characters, hats off to them for doing this as well as they did across so long of a period of time.
Yeah, this was years in real time.
Yes.
In the making, and it is refreshing to see that it wasn't disappointing to have it all wrapped up. And it's, if you haven't listened to our Sentinels of Light episode yet, go listen to it, because then you can learn that it's not even fully wrapped up yet. Like,
yes.
It's exciting. It's exciting to see that, like, the story is coming together more and that it's still engaging. I'm still just as excited to learn more about Lucian and Senna and their journey as I was when Lucian and Thresh first came out as champions. like even before Senna came out. So it's very exciting. Hats off to you, Riot. And we will be here for when we get to go deeper.
Oh, yeah. We'll still be around. And with that, as always, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Take care, everybody.